What's going on, Consciouztv, your favorite breakdown commentator, CTV. Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. We are here to get into the things of the things of the things of the things, girl. You know, we're in a Pluto's retrograde, so it's going down in the land, and it will continue to go down in the land up until October, girl. You got Megan Thee Stallion versus her defendant, Nappy Radio. You got the Diddy trial playing out for 2 months. You got the TD Jake versus everybody, baby. Everybody whipping everybody out here in 2025. So we're going to be keeping up with all of the things as usual. We have an explosive update on the TD Jake versus Duane Youngblood defamation lawsuit. You don't want to miss this. Make sure that you guys, as you guys are coming in, run those likes all the way up. Whether you part of the replay gang, a Bush baby, or you're active in these streets with me in real time, we need all of those likes. Like don't cost you nothing, and it helps to boost the YouTube algorithm. But more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another country's crew member and telling them to get their black asses in to the sanctuary. So run those likes up. Also, if you appreciate and love everything that the king do here and bring to you guys can donate to the platform, $Consciouztv on Cash App and or paypal.me/Consciouztv, conscious spelled with the Z on the very end, just how it is here on the platform. All handles are, of course, in the description box below. Make sure that you have your notification bell set to all. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community so that you never miss. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. I just looked over and completely distracted myself. Make sure that you guys share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you in fat lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're loud, we're live, and we're certainly in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through. Okay.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on, Conscious Crew? Happy Hump Day. Let me speak to all of you guys who are in the building. What is going on, Rumors and Tea? Hi, Sherry. What's going on, Amina? What's going on, Did You Know? Hey, Keita. What's going on, Karen? Sassy. And what's going on, Alex? Yes, Trump pardon 2 ninjas. I'm not impressed. These people are priming y'all up for midterms. Trump knows that he has made a disaster of the country. He knows that he's completely shitting on Harvard. Him and all of his constituents, girl, they're going to need all of our support in order to keep, their whole shit in order. And he's going to be, sprinkling some things about the black community because he knows that, a big chunk of the black community, rather than being free, love the alternative of just eating the crumbs from master's table. So Trump, like all narcissists, is going to be breadcrumbing the hell out of the black community. He's going to be touching on some things here and there, doing some so-called liberating things or doing some rather shallow shit to just keep black folk inspired. So, if you can pardon them Negroes, how about get to that goddamn conversation around reparations? How about improve the criminal justice system and criminal justice reform as a whole instead of, picking the easiest part of the problem and then resolving it when black and brown people are still tied up and vacuumed into an overall criminal justice system that is corrupted, that is racially biased, that is gender biased, I don't give a fuck about how many single criminalized ass ninjas Trump called himself pardon baby. If you want to do something for the black community, do something for the community as a whole instead of doing this token niggerism that he's doing. This tokenism, I'm not impressed by. I already be calling the play, seeing the play before these hoes ever get started. So, you know, y'all can be impressed by the bitchcraft and the witchcraft of it all, not I. Anywho, what's going on, Nia? Hey, Deborah. What's going on, Sherry? Hi, y'all. Let me shout out to the Conscious crew, girl. Y'all made it rain on the king last night. I ain't even know. I did that live last night, halfway sleep, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I forgot I was live. So I'm like, why am I getting all these cash apps in the heat of the night? I forgot I was live, and very much so in color at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, girl, talking about Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion and Nappy Radio. But shout out to my baby mother, Janine. Shout out to my baby mother, Kiki and Jackie for the nasty piece of child support check. Y'all know that all donation information is in the description box below. Hey, Tia, what's going on, you guys? So we got a lot to get into. You guys know there is a whole lot going on. I'm not going to get into the backstory when it comes to TD Jake's lawsuit, but just for a small origin story for those who are new to the situation, or you've taken in so much information at this point that you have kind of forgot some of the details of what's going on with Jakes. Jakes has been handing out ass whippings and taking names since last year. You guys know that he is holding YouTube and Google accountable for a lot of the deep fake AI content about him and Diddy and trying to connect him to that narrative. He has subpoenaed information from Google about particular YouTube channels that he's looking to dissolve and dismantle entirely and hold accountable. Also within that vacuum experience, TD Jakes decided to hand out a lawsuit to one of his accusers by the name of Duane Youngblood, who came forward last year on a platform called Larry Reid Live, where he did a part 1 and a part 2 with the host, and basically made claims against TD Jakes that TD Jakes was attempting to sexually coerce or indoctrinate or attempt to actually assault him. He claims that upon one evening when he dropped Jakes off, that him and Jakes had a 3-hour-long conversation about the woes of his life, and as he proceeded to exit the home, TD Jakes grabbed him and pushed and pulled him in to his man boobs, okay, and attempted to lean down and kiss him. Now, this was just an attempt, according to Duane Youngblood. Then he claims the following day, TD Jakes called his mother's house and asked to speak to him, where he tried to proposition him for a lifelong stint in Jakes' harem as a sex worker, and that he would take care of all of Duane Youngblood's needs, etc., and that they would proceed to have all type of religious unprotected sex, you know, until the end of days. All right. This led, according to Duane Youngblood, a confrontation between himself and Jakes via the administration of the church that Jakes was a guest speaker at the time. Apparently, there was all this back and forth and in-house meeting between Youngblood and Jakes about this coercion, about this coming on, about this homoerotic behavior from Jakes, etc. Boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow. All right? Well, TD Jakes heard all of those things, filed a defamation lawsuit, called Duane Youngblood all type of a liar, and exposed his complete and utter criminal history, which, come to find out, Duane Youngblood is a registered SCX offender who has violated multiple young boys, multiple young minors and teenagers, and have served decades in prison. He also, interesting and conveniently enough, ended up being the real life version of everything that he accused Jakes of being in his personal narrative. Youngblood himself was a ordained pastor who opened up a church, and he used the name of God and the house of God to draw in unsuspecting teenage boys who unfortunately had already been violated ancestrally by their uncles and other relatives, and under the nose of the parents and the adults of his church, he would take advantage of those young boys' emotional vulnerabilities, their mental injuries, and he would further violate them as well. Now, according to Larry Reid Live, him and Duane Youngblood are friends. Okay, that's the terminology that he uses. And Larry had been communicating with Duane Youngblood for a year or two while Duane Youngblood was locked up in prison. Okay, and that's when Larry claims that he became aware of the Duane Youngblood TD Jakes link. And so over the course of Duane Youngblood being locked up for violating parole, he has not been able to, stay away from young boys. He's not been able to, muster the self-control and discipline to stop communicating with minors, okay, which is all a part of his stipulations, all a part of the rules he is to abide by as a registered SCX offender. So they caught him once again communicating through social media with another underage boy, and kaboom, his ass was back in prison, and him and Larry corresponded up until Duane got out. All right. Now, there's been a lot of conspiracies about what the point was of Larry even interviewing Duane Youngblood. What was the whole play? It's very clear from the lawsuit, which has been going on since, I believe, November or October of last year, that TD Jakes definitely believes that there is a conspiratorial cabal that has formed up against him. He is pretty convinced that Larry is one out of the 10 John Does that are in conspiracy and in cahoots with Duane Youngblood to bring the smear campaign against TD Jakes. You guys know that TD Jakes has claimed to have suffered loss of millions of dollars in business proposals that all fell through as a result of this 15-minute soundbite from a 2.5-hour interview between Larry Reid and Duane Youngblood going viral. Larry posted the single clips to TikTok, etc. This is actually how attorney Tyrone Blackburn came into the group chat, because he commented under one of the excerpts from the interview on Larry's TikTok, basically told Larry that Duane has a case, and then the rest is history. A demand letter was sent to TD Jakes. TD Jakes responded to that demand letter with a demand letter of his own, which was a defamation lawsuit, bitch. Okay. I believe one of the other John Does that is to be listed, if the lawyers can figure out how to work it in, is probably going to be Tyrone Blackburn as well. What I can say, as somebody who's been keeping up with the details of this litigation, that, my God, Larry was the one out here saying initially that it wasn't going to be a great idea for Jakes to sue Duane, because all of TD Jakes' bullshit and skeletons, all his demons, were going to come flooding out of his closet, along with rubber dildos and gowns and tiaras and anal prostate stimulators, etc., girl. But the reality is looking like it was not actually in the best interest of Duane Youngblood, baby, to do that motherfucking interview. The reality right now, as it's given, is that it wasn't in the best interest of Larry to interview Duane Youngblood, because TD Jakes is coming for the heads of everyone he has deemed a goddamn snake, and he's asking for all the motherfucking smoke. So TD Jakes has not been wooed. He has not been slighted. He has not been intimidated by any of Larry's forewarnings that this could open up a can of worms. He want those cans. He want the worm in them. And he's actually handing over the can opener. Okay? So he's testing to try. And baby, it has been epic in this lawsuit since, because Duane Youngblood and his attorney were exposed proceedings ago when they presented false, fake affidavits from people who initially Duane Youngblood had claimed were people who had their own anecdotal experiences, other victims of TD Jakes. Come to find out, there was only one person out of the 8 individuals who submitted an affidavit on behalf of Duane Youngblood that actually claimed to be a victim, and that conveniently was someone by the name of Richard Youngblood, who is also conveniently Duane Youngblood's brother. Every other affidavit, you guys, was by convicted felons and other SCX offenders. And when Jake's lawyers got on those affidavits and start trying to make them make sense, come to find out, baby, there were major historical inconsistencies even within the affidavits themselves. There were all type of revisionist historians taking place in these affidavits. I mean, it was an epic slaughter. Probably one of the most epic apocalyptic slaughters I have ever seen in a litigation this far. When I say that TD Jakes tore through the anal cavities, baby, of Tyrone Blackburn and Duane Youngblood, girl, I was sliding down a motherfucking wall. I could not believe that Duane Youngblood had the unmitigated audacity to literally have, first and foremost, people who were not actual victims of Jakes. These were just people who had claimed that at some point over the course of the 90s and early 2000s that Duane had confided in them about the events that took place between Jakes and Duane, which was a stark contrast to how Duane had fluffed up the courts to believe initially that these were going to be affidavits by other victims of Jakes. Okay? That these were sworn affidavits by people who had been directly and internally violated. Matter of fact, in Duane's initial response to the lawsuit, Duane says to the courts, the judge, I am prepared to move forward. I have people who are willing to join me, other alleged victims of Jakes whose stories are more harrowing, or more volatile, or more sickening and disgusting and satanic, that are more horrendous than my own, judge. I am coming with an army. Come to find out, he's coming with an army of other sex offenders who also lied within their affidavits, because while some sex offenders claim, me and Duane Youngblood, we shared a cup of orange juice overlooking Belize when Duane spoke to me and confided in me. Come to find out, bitch, how was you in Belize when your sex offending ass was actually locked up at the time that you claim you were sitting out there having tea and crumpets on the balcony with Duane Youngblood? Huh? How all the sex offenders who came to Duane's aid, girl, who claimed that they were in the world at the time that Duane had confided in them, all of them were locked the fuck up. And then how in the hell and why in the hell would you be having all people come to your aid? A bunch of other non-integral criminalized offenders as well. And did you not think that Jake's team were not going to rip into the tomfoolery of it all? Did you not think they were going to do their homework? Do you not think they were going to find out where these folks submitting these affidavits with these dates and time in it? Yeah, where were you on June 2nd of 1998? Where exactly were you, August the 27th of 2002? Did you not think they were going to go Googling and they were going to go doing their background? Did you not think they were going to make it make sense? So now what's even more terrifying is the fact that Duane Youngblood, even now, as a so-called reformed, girl, we ain't even going to get there, that even Duane right now is nested within a cabal of sex offenders. He still have other sex offenders on the line. He still have other sex offenders that he's in bestie relationships with. That is a terrifying thing. Now, let's also go through some other preliminary stuff before we really get into this recent update. What's going on, Official King Josh? Hey, boo. How you doing, my love? Official King Josh says, child, them niggas ain't providing no. Baby, it has been a slaughter. And look, y'all. Thank you, Patty. Talking about CTV is so cute. Thank you. It is a mess out here, y'all. Now, here's where shit gets thick for a few different reasons. Shit get real thick for a few different reasons, right? Every time we have provided an update and did a commentary about this particular lawsuit, folk have said and have asked me, girl, why did Larry get in this? Why did Larry do this? What is the motive? What had happened? People have been scratching their heads. You know, the streets have been talking. There are lots of interesting conspiracies and thoughts that have been produced as to the why, what is the motive, what is the context. I'm going to say this. Me and Larry have not seen eye to eye on Duane Youngblood since the beginning of this thing. I was asking the same questions as you guys were asking. You guys can see in some of the interviews that and some of the commentary that me and Larry did together on my platform last year, girl, that, you know, I was always giving the major side. I was asking some really poignant questions that I also don't think now looking back is going to work out well for Larry. And I'm going to tell you why that is. First and foremost, like I've said in previous commentary, Larry did a show with a proven, objective, convicted pedophile. And the title of both of these shows were From Victim to Victimizer, which Duane Youngblood is claiming to have been a victim of religious pedophilic cabals himself. Okay, cool. He's saying that this is the reason why he twisted and he knotted up and he got demons and devils and ghouls and goblins living all up inside of him. Okay, all right. My thing with Larry is, because Larry said his attitude was, okay, let's talk about the nuance of from victimized to being the victimizer and then to redemption. Well, how was Duane going to be used as the poster child for that, considering that this man had just gotten out of prison? So you're not even bringing forth a pedophile to us who's quote unquote on the redeeming end of the spectrum. That is like 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out from his crimes, from his pathologies, from his habits, from his behavior. So why the fuck is a Duane Youngblood being plastered in everybody's face who just violated probation because he can't keep his hands and his mouth and his afflictions to his motherfucking self? How is he the poster child? You telling me that there wasn't a better poster child for this conversation than Duane Youngblood? So that didn't make any damn sense. Now here's the thing. Larry is being narrated all up and through this lawsuit as a co-conspirator, as somebody who was in cahoots with Duane to smear the fuck out of TD Jake's reputation and get this payout. Let me tell you something. If TD Jake's people go back baby, if they start pulling back the files, they're going to have some interesting corroborating evidence to line shit up with. They're going to have some interesting corroborating evidence to line certain narratives up with. Because when I asked Larry on my live stream, were you surprised that TD Jakes sued Duane Youngblood? He said no. But I'm going to tell you what gagged me. I had asked Larry, I said, so the people who are claiming that you did all of this because you got a personal grievance against Jakes, you're jealous, you got this, straw up your ass, this wild hair up your ass for Jakes, da 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 da. Larry's response was, I'm just doing my job like every other commentator does. This is a story. This is somebody who has a story. And I'm just lending my platform, being a content creator like everybody else. And then he doubled down and said, hold on, y'all. I got so much stuff going through my brain right now. He said, hold on, I just lost my thought. What did he say? Larry said, I don't even know why Jakes is even suing Duane Youngblood, because TD Jakes was only 15 minutes of a 2.5 hour long discussion. TD Jakes is acting like the total 2.5 hours was about him. TD Jakes might have been 15 to 20 minutes of an entire soliloquy that Duane was given about his journey in the church and his own violations and personal injuries. And I said, well, why is TD Jakes supposed to give a fuck about whether it's only 15 minutes worth of slander or 2.5 hours worth of slander? When the reality is he was slandered. Even if he was slandered for all the 60 goddamn seconds, it was defamatory and it was slanderous. And you're telling me that TD Jakes, for whatever reason, was just supposed to ignore that when you also are a man who has sued your own accusers? That makes sense. So TD Jakes can't sue anybody accusing him and anybody defaming him, but you are allowed to submit your lawsuits and to execute lawsuits against folk that you have deemed have been accusatory toward you. It's a double standard here. But then the fact that Jakes is pretty much priming the courts with this narrative that Larry is a co-conspirator, and the fact that Larry is playing Mr. Innocent, I ain't do nothing, I was only being a commentator, but yet I'm not shocked that Jakes sued Duane. And then I asked him the point-blank question. I said, so did you know what you were doing when you carved out the segment, this 15-minute, 20-minute segment that you are arguing should be irrelevant, but it was relevant enough to be carved out as a single segment and then uploaded to your social medias as shorts and reels? So you just contradicted the living dog shit out of yourself. You just contradicted your damn self. You're saying Jake shouldn't be concerned. This is petty, but it wasn't petty enough for you to allow what old boy said about Jakes to be swallowed up in translation of a 2.5 hour discussion. You intentionally went in and edited out Duane's talking points about Jakes and made those separate uploads for all to see and for all to hear, and subjected TD Jakes to public contempt. And you don't think that Jakes is supposed to be seeing you as a co-conspirator? Yikes. That's going to be a lot to deal with. A lot to deal with. Now, well, let me get some of y'all comments before we go in. Rise says, exactly. Sorry, but Larry is getting everything. Oh, everything he deserves. Well. Rumors in T says, Jakes may possibly be guilty of some accusations, but not this one from Duane. Cree B says, but who really remembers the names of the others? Mitch, and that was to my point and why I said what I said to Larry. And Larry admitted he knew exactly what he was doing by carving out the 15-minute, 20-minute part that was slanderous against Jakes. Larry admitted he knew what he was doing. So now we can safely also say that while we may be unclear about the real motive here, that we can absolutely, though, toss out the fact that you are innocent. There is ulterior motive. Now, what that ulterior motive is, what the streets are, talking about and sitting around and think pieces and trying to put together. But the fact that you admitted to me in front of everybody that you knew exactly what you were doing and that you were not shocked that TD Jakes filed against Duane and that you single-handedly edited out what you would like to call publicly irrelevant about Jakes, but you made it completely relevant. You went out of your way to make that 15, 20-minute talking point relevant by making them individual uploads. And this is stuff he said out loud for everyone to see. These are not even my words. These are his own words. His public words. These were his public responses to the questions that I asked him. Because like y'all, none of this shit has made any motherfucking sense to me either. Look, I ain't got no rooster in the race. I'm not here to help Jakes. I'm not here to help Duane. I'm not here to help Tyrone Blackburn. I'm not here to help Larry. I'm not here to help everybody, baby. I am here to be a non-biased commentator. Isn't that the reason why Larry said he loved me, baby? Oh, CTV, he's so non-biased. CTV done dragged me. CTV done did this. CTV done did that. Oh, yeah, CTV don't kiss my ass. Uh-huh. Let's all remember that then. This is non-biased commentary, right? These are some of my most beautiful qualities, according to Dr. Reid, right? Okay. Let's just remember to keep that same energy, baby. Okay. So, shit gonna get thick. Shit gonna get real thick. And what I'm trying to say here, girl, because I want to be very, I want to be very intentional. Because, I'm not a loose cannon. But there's things are going to get interesting. Things are going to get interesting. And what I will say, well, I'll say that to the end. I believe Larry, Youngblood, and Blackburn were going to split that $6 million. They thought Jakes would foolishly pay it off. Larry thought his whistleblowing tactics was going to shake Jakes enough that he wouldn't continue moving forward with the lawsuit. He didn't do enough research on Duane the story, but that was his friend. Child. They had been communicating for years. Larry doesn't do anything without a purpose, says Steph D. Child, shit gonna get thick, y'all. Now, I glazed over this write-up, child, last night. Girl, them folk just keep lying, baby. Every time Jake's got a circle the block on Duane and Tyrone Blackburn, girl, He just be exposing the lies of the lies of the lies of the lies. And this write-up is even worse than the whole expose on the fake-ass affidavits that came from all of Duane Youngblood's pedophilic friends, girl. This is a mess, girl. Let's get into it. I'm going to put up a picture. And then we're going to get into the situation at hand, child. I just came to dance for y'all. That's it. And that is all, baby. I just came to dance for y'all. Child. Let me see her. See, the thing about me as a friend, you know, I tried to keep Larry out of a lot of shit. This shit, the McWig shit. There has been almost everything that got Larry fucked up. The Tasha K shit, the Lester shit. These were all shits that he and I used to fight about real bad. Real bad. See, I'm okay now with being the controlling friend, because you know what was mistaken for control was actually wisdom, love, and protectedness. Something that people who actually love another person does. And let me tell you this, contrary to popular belief, I know a lot of y'all may think that Larry is surrounded by a lot of yes men. The reality is actually quite the opposite. And that's why there is always so much interesting tension amongst the camp, because oftentimes the camp has one attitude and direction and belief, while Larry holds another. And this can lead to some interesting in-house conflict. So let me just go ahead and do Larry's intimate community, you know, a due service and say that they are not the yes men that people may believe. Larry is not nested within yes men. People have tugged and dragged Larry to and fro about his decisions, about his calculations, about his motives, about his attitude. But let me tell you something also. That is a virtue of love. People also love Larry enough to let him be hard-headed, let him be resistant, let him insist upon his own way without punishing him in a vicious way for being disobedient. So that's why you're also not going to see those same people who love Larry enough to tell him the truth also be the same people that are going to try to burn the house down as a result of him not pledging an allegiance to the truth, of him not always being on the right side of history, because that's also a property of love. I do realize that and understand, because, you know, my ears are softly to the streets. You know, half the time I got my feet up and my weave is to the motherfucking wind, because I live a very good life. You know, so I keep my ears softly to the streets instead of aggressively to the streets. And I know that there's a lot of people who are, you know, waiting on me to do something. They're waiting on me to do something. But you know, I have loved the people that I have loved. So even if, just like y'all didn't know that me and Larry was not on speaking terms last year, some of y'all kind of felt we weren't, but y'all didn't know it until me and Larry had made up. And then Larry blabbering ass went and let it be known. Oh yeah, me and CTV wasn't talking. I personally don't prefer to talk about my personal life. I don't prefer to talk about my personal burnouts. I don't prefer to talk about my personal breakdowns. I am beyond and all over that. When I first got onto this motherfucker, you know, I wanted to be one of those type of content creators too. I wanted to be the bitch that, you know, okay, you know, we in the realm of transparency, you know, we share our lives, but now seeing how perverted the public is and seeing how people take very personal, interpersonal experiences and the public will rape the experience of all of its organic material in order to cipher it into their own perceptions about what's going on. I made an allegiance to myself that my personal life will be my motherfucking personal life. So people ain't gonna know when I'm good. People ain't gonna know when I'm bad. People ain't gonna know what the goddamn status of my personal relationships are. Okay? So as it relates to this concept and idea of love, baby, you know, even when I don't agree with folk that I love, even when I am not yes, in agreement with decisions being made, etc. No matter how volatile, how crazy the breakdown is, the confrontation is, I also never developed something called vengeance against people that I genuinely love. Never. Never. Never, 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 never. I feel like if you can go from love to vengeance, baby, we got to question the love. We got to question the love. Now, you can tell the truth. You can tell the truth as you so see it, have experienced, so help you God. But when love goes from love to rage, baby, let me tell you something. As a spiritualist, the number one cardinal rule of love is do no harm, no intentional inflicting of harm to another. If you truly love someone, you cannot intentionally and maliciously bring harm to them. You can get the fuck out their way. You can go on about your life. You can get your ass up out of the motherfucking boat. But what you can't do, baby, is throw a grenade behind you. You can't do that, baby. You let God take it from there. All right? So let's get to this goddamn update, child. Because there's a lot going on, honey. And, you know, I'm just going to give my honest, non-biased perspective on the things. All right? Jake's response opens up with he's a citizen in December of 2024. Let's get to the meat. Duane Youngblood filed a motion under Pennsylvania's anti-SLAPP. By order date April 25th of 2025, the court denied defendant's motion based on the applicability of the anti-SLAPP law and noted that, quote, the court will not reframe Youngblood's argument to fit within Rule 12B or Rule 56 framework, okay? So the courts had said in their last response to Duane, we see what you're trying to do here. We see what you're trying to argue, but because this is your matter, this is your litigation, it's not our job to help you out. It's your job to get it right. It's your job to make it clear. It's your job to make it applicable to etc. So despite us thinking that we're knowing what you're trying to say and do, girl, it's a no for us. Okay? You get a redo. Now, the redo got had, a few weeks ago? Where Tyrone, Blackburn, after getting scorched by the damn judge, after they pretty much, the judge reevaluated every single thing that Tyrone, Blackburn had presented and was like, this don't apply here, this don't apply here, this is federal, this is only state, this is interpretive, this is subjective. So all in all, bitch, I rule against you. You can take these cliff notes of all these errors that I'm acknowledging in your anti-SLAPP motion, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to redo it. And then gave Jake's the opportunity to respond to the anti-SLAPP, which is what this is. The court did not otherwise comment on Rule 12, including as the sufficiency of plaintiff's complaint and pleading the elements of his claims. On May 5th of 2025, defendant Youngblood filed a motion to dismiss and a memorandum in support. The sole signatory and filler of the defendant's brief was defendant counsel Tyrone Blackburn. In the course of reading defendant's brief, glaring inaccuracies emerged, fabricated quotes from the court's April 25 order, fabricated quotes from other cases, misrepresentations of precedent, and misstatements about the complaint. As a result, I, along with other attorneys and legal support staff at my firm, conducted a detailed review of the case law and record citations in defendant's brief. The result of our analysis is as follows, girl. They about to tear Tyrone, Blackburn, and Duane asked, all the way up. While working on plaintiff's opposition to defendant's motion to dismiss, I was initially surprised to read certain quotes from the court's April 25th order, which, at first glance, I did not recall seeing in the order. Upon closer inspection, I confirmed that the quotes and the other references and claims about the court's April 25th order appeared nowhere in it. Specifically, defendant's brief made the following false representations about what the court's April 25th order said and found. A, quote, the court has already noted in its April 25th, 2025 memorandum opinion that plaintiff complaint is repetitive and heavy on rhetoric, with no factual detail supporting the core elements of his claims. This observation is critical. A complaint based on rhetorical flourishes, inflammatory language, and character assassination rather than well-pleaded factual allegations is precisely what case law here were designed to eliminate, as the court implicitly recognized plaintiff's reliance on tone over substance is fatal under Rule 12. B, the court's April 25th, 2025 memorandum opinion, while resolving only the procedural applicability of the anti-SLAPP statute, nonetheless made several critical observations that substantially reinforced defendants' arguments under Rule 12b. The court noted, for example, that plaintiff's complaint is repetitive and heavy on rhetoric and fails to identify with clarity the particular allegedly defamatory statements made by defendant Youngblood. It also observed that plaintiff's allegations rely on conclusory assertions and lack factual content supporting core elements such as falsity and malice. Although these observations were not dispositive in the court's prior ruling, they directly mirror Rule 12b arguments raised in this motion and further demonstrate that plaintiffs' defamation and conspiracy claims are not merely weak, they are legally deficient. These issues already apparent on the face of the pleadings and acknowledged by the courts independently warrant dismissal. C, quote, the court further noted that plaintiff's complaint fails to establish that Youngblood's statements were specifically of and concerning him. D, the court, quote, independently noted the deficiencies raised in the Rule 12b motion in its April 25th, 2025 memorandum opinion. The court observed the complaint's failure to allege specific defamatory statements, overuse of conclusory assertions, and lack of factual content supporting falsity and malice. 7, none of the representations by defendant about this court statements actually happened, and the quotes are all total fabrications. Wow. As the April 25th opinion explained, quote, the court will dismiss Youngblood's motion because it relies on statutory provisions that are not applicable in this litigation, and, quote, the court will not reframe Youngblood's argument to fit within the Rule 12b-6 framework because, quote, as discussed above, the court cannot and will not craft arguments for the party. So here it is. Jake's attorneys are calling out Blackburn for just lying, bitch. Like, what lawsuit have you been a part of? What the hell are you talking about? None of the things that you claim were said on behalf of the courts and by the courts ever fucking happened. These quotes do not exist. Have you lost your everlasting dementia, Alzheimer's ass mind? Just lying. Just lying. B, defendants brief fabricated quotations from other cases. After discovering that the defendant's brief misrepresented the court's April 25th opinion, I looked more closely at the cases relied upon in the argument section. Upon inspection, I confirmed that quotes from many court cases had also been fabricated, either in whole or in part. Attached as Exhibit A is a compendium of the cases in defendant's brief noted below. Okay, then they give all matters of fabrications, take it out of context. They're quoting Blackburn, things that never happened. I'm just going to go ahead and read all this. I'm going to go ahead and read it, okay? One of the quotes is, moreover, the Pennsylvania Superior Court in Blackwell versus Eskeen emphasized that even where statements are embarrassing or upsetting, the plaintiff must demonstrate their precise defamatory content and origin. quote, the mere incantation of harm or reputational injury without identifying the defamatory words, and the speaker is insufficient. Quote, as the court held in Blackwell, ill will or a defendant's desire to harm the plaintiff, although probative of the defendant's state of mind without more, does not establish actual malice or falsity. 3, quote, as Blackwell makes clear, evidence of ill will or the fact that a statement is strongly worded is not sufficient to show actual malice. And B, quote, under Pennsylvania's law, civil conspiracy demands a showing of actual malice, which means an intent to injure the plaintiff and no other lawful or independent motive, such as cited in case law there. They name more case law and more case law, girl. The lawyer's just going all the way down to goddamn chambers, y'all. Okay? Lining Blackburn up. Now, mind you, Blackburn's his other client, Sabrina Peterson, who attempted to sue T.I. and Tiny, T.I. and Tiny turned around and also sued her for defamation. And they have a trial date, girl. So when I say that Tyrone Blackburn is no good, he's an incompetent, ambulance chasing ass attorney, and almost all of his cases have either stalled or been a reverse uno'd, girl, that I don't even know why anybody is even entertaining and taking Tyrone Blackburn seriously at this goddamn point. Like, his L's are historical and they are practically consistent. Tyrone Blackburn only seeks to align himself with hyper-sensationalized lawsuits and litigation so he can raise his social profile, but he actually leaves the defendant or the plaintiff or whomever the fuck it is at that current time hanging, only does half the work, and he's been literally sanctioned. He's been banished. I mean, he's considered a legal clown. There are so many strikes against Tyrone Blackburn in the court system against him as an attorney. I don't even know how this man passed the state bar. I don't know whether ChatGPT was a thing at the time that he took his bar exam, girl. I don't know whether he paid somebody to do it on his behalf, girl, but it's kind of very scary that he passed that bar and has went on to not actually pass any damn thing else since. Nonetheless, Jake's write-up goes on to say the quotations noted in bold in paragraph 8A through H are completely and utterly made up. I confirm that the quoted language does not exist in the cited cases, and for quotes longer than 3 words, I could not identify any single case using the quoted language, using either a Westlaw or Google search. For most quotes, the only Google search result was the defendant's actual brief, y'all. This is absolutely unbelievable. This is unbelievable. It goes on. During my inquiry into the case law, I discovered that many other cases that were cited but not quoted and clearly misrepresented by the descriptions provided the defendant's brief, such as case law here, Castellina versus Stratton Times. In addition to the fabricated quotes noted in paragraph 8, defendant brief cites Castellina and Stratton Times for 2 invented propositions. On page 13, defendant's brief claims that the case stands for the notion that, quote, the pleading standard for civil conspiracy is exacting. The plaintiff must plead with factual specificity that 2 or more parties entered into a knowing agreement to commit an unlawful act, took overt acts in furtherance of that agreement, and acted with malice with the specific intent to harm the plaintiff. And B, on page 16, defendant brief claims that the case stands for the notion that, quote, under Pennsylvania's law, civil conspiracy demands a showing of actual malice, which means an intent to injure the plaintiff and no other lawful or independent motive. Castellina was not a conspiracy case and does not discuss the torts requirements or the standard for pleading those claims. 12. Soprano versus Philadelphia newspaper. Defendant brief cites that Soprano and Philadelphia newspaper for 2 invented propositions, girl. 2 made up propositions, 2 made up motives. On page 9, defendant brief cites that the case for the notion that, quote, to survive dismissal, a public figure must allege facts suggesting the speaker had serious doubts about the truth of their statements. And B, on page 10, defendant's brief cites the case for the notion that, quote, as affirmed in Soprano, actual malice requires more than a plaintiff's denial or general allegations of motive. It demands facts showing the defendant knowingly or recklessly disregarded the truth. Soprano considered whether a collective bargaining agreement preempted the defamation suit, and it only mentioned actual malice in passing. With regard to actual malice, the case stated only, quote, plaintiff's complaint also includes numerous allegations which plaintiff contends are sufficient to demonstrate malice on the part of the defendant to defeat conditional privilege if one exists. Hold on, you guys. All right, we're back. Let me make sure I've unmuted. All right, 13, Franklin Prescriptions, Inc. In addition to the fabricated quotes noted in paragraph 8, defendant brief cites Franklin Prescriptions, Inc. for several invented propositions. One, on page 7, defendant brief claims the case stands for the notion that where, quote, a complaint contains vague references without supplying the precise language, speaker, or context, it also parenthetically represents that Franklin Prescriptions, quote, required a defamation plaintiff to allege the exact words spoken or published, and it claims that Franklin holds that liability for defamation cannot rest on the speech of others unless the defendant actively adopted or republished it, and parenthetically that it requires plaintiffs to attribute statements to each defendant. 2, on page 10, defendant's brief claims that Franklin Prescription stands for the proposition that, quote, Pennsylvania law places the burden squarely on the plaintiff to prove publication and resulting harm, and federal pleading standards under Rule 8 require that these allegations be stated with non-conclusory plausible factual support, and parenthetically that it noted that general allegations of reputational harm or publication without factual detail are insufficient to withstand dismissal. 3, on page 12, defendant brief claims that Franklin Prescription stands for the proposition that undifferentiated group pleading violates both Pennsylvania defamation law and Rule 8, and parenthetically that it rejected group attribution in defamation pleadings where individual defendant roles were not specified. On page 18, that, quote, courts applying Pennsylvania law have long held that group pleading in defamation and conspiracy cases is improper. 4, on page 15, defendant brief claims that Franklin Prescription stands for the proposition that conclusory allegations of coordination or acting in concert without more are legally insufficient, and parenthetically dismissing conspiracy claim where plaintiff failed to identify any facts establishing the existence of an argument. And on page 17, it says, quote, as Franklin Prescriptions both make clear and such generalized allegations do not satisfy Rule 8 or the heightened specificity required for conspiracy claims under Pennsylvania law. Franklin Prescriptions had nothing to do with any of these propositions. It is a summary judgment decision that did not opine on pleading standards at all, nor did it consider the level of textual specificity required to prove a defamatory statement or attribution of statements. The case was about choice of law, negligence, actual malice, and whether the Times intended or endorsed the defamatory implication of the claims. And Franklin Prescriptions is not in any way a conspiracy case. The attorneys put that in bold black caps. Hill versus Cosby, in addition to the fabricated quote noted in paragraph 8, defendant brief misrepresents the Third Circuit's decision in Hill versus Cosby. Okay. It lists 2 instances of inconsistencies and then concludes that Hill is primarily an opinion case and never mentions the standard for pleading reputational injury at all. Moreover, Hill was not a conspiracy case at all. 15, in Seminger versus Davis, for the proposition that failing to allege that any third party received the statements and understood them as defamatory toward plaintiff is fatal to the claims and represents parenthetically that in Seminger was affirming dismissal where plaintiff failed to plead specific harm under Rule 8343, but the in Seminger court did not consider whether the plaintiff alleged specific harm, whether it was a case about defamatory meaning. And girl, it goes on. Jake's attorneys gathered the case law Kennedy versus Toronto, case law Ramono versus Young, case law Whiting versus Safe Auto Inc., and pretty much calls Blackburn out for either completely misrepresenting these case laws and what they were about and whether they established a precedent, etc., or just all out fucking lied and put words and claims under the nose of these case laws that doesn't exist at fucking all. Okay? The write-up goes on to say the defendant's brief misrepresented the complaint too. Defendant's brief also makes a series of misrepresentations about the complaint, fabricating one quote and denying the existence of many paragraphs, sections, and facts that are recited therein, and that, in my opinion, go beyond the bounds of zealous advocacy or just putting defendants' arguments forward with the best footing. So here it is. Jake's attorneys are saying, look, this is all out. Just lying. This is fraud. This attorney is trying to hoodwink and bamboozle the dog shit out of the courts. This is not an instance of an attorney just being overworked or maybe just getting some footnotes wrong or it's just, being lousy or tired. This is a clear and utter misrepresentation of the case, of case law, etc., girl, that Tyrone Blackburn is intentionally defrauding the courts in real time at this point, okay? Actual malice on pages 9 through 10. Defendant's brief states, quote, the only references to malice appear as conclusory legal assertions that Youngblood acted intentionally and maliciously, and that the complaint do not allege that Youngblood ever recanted, contradicted himself, or expressed doubt, and, quote, the complaint offers no facts suggesting that Youngblood disbelieved his account was contracted by evidence in his possession or was aware of any falsity at the time of the broadcast. But the phrase, quote, intentionally and maliciously does not appear in the complaint, let alone in paragraph 60, which reads, quote, Youngblood published his statements on the October 28th and November 3rd episodes of Larry Reid Live with actual malice, in that he was aware at the time of publication that the statement was false, or at a minimum had a high degree of awareness that the statement was probably false. And the complaint alleges 7 categories of evidence that constitute proof of actual malice. Defamatory remarks on pages 3 and 7 through 8, defendant's brief states that the complaint does not identify concrete or particular defamatory statements by Youngblood, and that, quote, plaintiff does not quote or paraphrase any particular defamatory statement by Youngblood, instead relying on, quote, vague references to grooming or actual misconduct without supplying the precise language, speaker, or context. But paragraphs 24 through 30 and 52 through 53, quote, specific defamatory statements and exchanges from the LRL interview verbatim, including in several instances in block quotes. And the complaint also alleges the import of those remarks. Okay, so here it is. Jake's attorneys are just like losing it, because it's clear that Siri or ChatGPT was just ran through, girl, when Tyrone Blackburn wrote this up, because it's almost as if Tyrone Blackburn has not been present at all in a litigation that he legally is representing someone on the behalf of, because there is a big, what the fuck is this dude talking about? The entire complaint is still available for all to see, and here it is. You want to say to the courts, which we're now, what, six months into this litigation, that no particular or specific defamatory statements by Duane was ever quoted, and we literally have those things in quotations and block quotes in our original complaint. Are you dumb? The write-up goes on to say falsehood. Pages 8 through 9 of defendant's brief states that the complaint offers nothing more than general denials, and only that Youngblood was, quote, motivated by ill will as pleadings for falsity. But the complaint alleges that none of the salient events Youngblood describes occurred, quote, from start to finish. Youngblood's tale of grooming and attempted sexual assault at the hands of Bishop T.D. Jakes is patently false. Quote, Bishop Jakes never kissed or tried to kiss Youngblood, never cornered him or forced him into any situation, sexual or otherwise, and certainly never told him that he wanted to sleep with him or had any conversation of a sexual nature at all with him. Quote, the interactions described by Youngblood during his LRL interviews on October 28th and November 3rd never happened, period. This is more than a generalized claim the statement was false. It's a denial of the conduct alleged to have occurred, contrary the false claims about the complaint's content made in defendant's brief. So here it is, girl. Jay's quotes are like, not only have we quoted, we've argued against and vehemently denied these assertions that Jakes was being inappropriate, that he tried to kiss this man, that he coerced this man, that he propositioned this man, that all these things are patently false. So what the hell are you talking about? The write-up goes on. Publication on page 12. Defendant's brief claims that, quote, throughout the complaint, Jakes refers to defendants having published or broadcasted statements without delineating what role defendant Youngblood himself played in the act of publication. But the complaint plainly alleges that, quote, on October 28th of last year and November 3rd of last year, Youngblood gave a live interview on the Larry Reid Live show in which he accused Bishop Jakes of grooming him, of actually assaulting and abusing him, and over other predatory conduct of an actual nature. The complaint then quotes the specific defamatory exchanges that occurred during each episode, and elsewhere it notes that Larry Reid Live has 150K subscribers and that both episodes went viral with over 120K views of part 1 and over 25K views for part 2. So despite the adequacy of these allegations would be one thing, but defendant's brief falsely stated they did not exist at all. And that, my friend, is a misrepresentation. Less than 2 months before counsel for Youngblood signed and filed defendant's brief, he receiving a warning to counsel from another federal district court about inaccurate states of law in a brief he filed in the Jones versus Combs. Oh, God, baby. Okay, baby. Now, baby. Jake's attorneys, girl, you know, they've been running down on Youngblood and all his charges, his offenses, his probation, calling out his sex offender friends in these affidavits, his lying ass spouse, the whole nine, girl. Now they're running down on Tyrone Blackburn and says that he pulls these type of games, and his incompetencies are also not isolated to just this litigation with Duane and T.D. Jakes, girl. Just look at what he did last year in Lil Rod's lawsuit against Combs, which you guys know we have reiterated here in commentary as Tyrone Blackburn stepped into the group chat to represent Duane Youngblood, because you guys know that that Lil Rod lawsuit was a mess. It had to be re-amended. It had to be amended, I think, 2 or 3 motherfucking times. There were various things that were debunked in the original lawsuit, in the amended lawsuit. There were things that were just not historically true, such as this ooting that Lil Rod claimed took place right in the studio that left one man dead in the studio bathroom. There was an event involving a shooting, but it took place like 2 blocks away from the studio. It had no relationship to where Lil Rod was. It had no relationship to Diddy, etc. This was a whole nother incident separate from that Tyrone Blackburn and Lil Rod co-wangled together to, once again, further sensationalize the lawsuit against Diddy. And then you guys remember, Tyrone Blackburn and Duane had put in the initial lawsuit a screenshot of who appeared to be Stevie J, producer, reality TV, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Stevie J. And this screenshot apparently was supposed to have came from a corn that Diddy had allegedly showed Lil Rod in the studio, basically claiming like, these are pretty much what we do. And it was apparently Stevie J in a corn with another man. Come to find out, the person whose face they used, girl, in the lawsuit was an actual adult entertainer who is same gender loving, who had to come out and be like, bitch, that's not Stevie J, that's me, ho. Okay? I mean, just tomfoolery. And then you guys know, we had to recently update on that case where the judge had also dismissed some more elements of Lil Rod's lawsuit. Girl, it's falling apart. Once again, Sabrina Peterson is going to trial with T.I. and Tiny. He represented, Sabrina against them. She felt she crashing and burning. She owed, hundreds of thousands and millions of goddamn dollars. Girl, it's just a whole hot fucking mess. Tyrone Blackburn is shit. Anyway, back to the filing, girl. U.S. District Judge J. Paul Ockking noted that, quote, Tyrone Blackburn filings are replete with inaccurate statements of law and found that it was not just disturbing, but shocking that any licensed member of the bar would espouse such an absurd understanding. Blackburn was then reminded that, quote, he has a professional obligation both to the court and to his client to state the law accurately and to allow this litigation to proceed efficiently. Judge Ockking also noted that this was not the first time Blackburn had been in trouble for filing false claims and that he had a pending referral to the Southern District of New York Disciplinary Committee for his repeated failure to investigate basic elements of his cases. In light of the chances and the warnings that he received previously, the court found much of Blackburn's conduct regarding defendant's motion to dismiss to be, quote, unsettling. Mind you, this is the same attorney that latched on to my girl, Jennifer Huff, who sued Nikki and Kenneth Petty. Jennifer Huff is Kenneth Petty's 1994 great victim. She sued both Kenny and Nikki for harassment, extortion, bribery, etc. And Tyrone Blackburn ended up having to dismiss Jennifer's lawsuit against Nikki based on technicalities, technical issues he made in the filing. This man drops the ball everywhere he goes, y'all. The writer goes to say, I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. Okay? And then we have a bunch of exhibits here. Exhibit A, where the attorney is quoting actual law, actual case law, actual rules, etc., showing where old boy intentionally misrepresented in this made up shit. Let me see here, more exhibits. He also has the whole transcription from the interviews between Larry and Duane. Let me see here. Let me scroll through all this shit. All this technical stuff, child. This lawyer laid Tyrone Blackburn the out. Let me see here. What else he got up in her? Okay, so yeah, everything that they pretty much had quoted and accused Duane Youngblood of in the initial complaint, they pretty much put the transcription from the actual interviews and the exhibits to show the courts what Duane and Larry said verbatim. They also put in keywords where they showed how many times a particular phrasing came up and where it came up at. Let me see what else is in these exhibits. My God, today. All right, so all of that's there. Now, there's a conversation going on around if and is Jakes going to sue Larry. Well, it's clear that that's what Jakes wants to do. He tried to get an early discovery against Larry that got denied. The judge did get on Jake's ass as well and said, look, just like we're not going to help Duane, we're not going to help you either. You're trying to use discovery and trying to use the courts in order to build a case against Larry when it should be the opposite way around. You should be coming in with already said evidence against the person who you're wanting to make a co-conspirator out of. And since you seem to be so convinced that Larry is a co-conspirator, that he's been in unison with Duane Youngblood, go ahead and list him as such. Go ahead and list him as such. Because we're not going to let you use the courts to help build your case against Larry per se. If you're convinced and you feel you've seen and heard and discerned enough to make him a villain in your narrative, then go ahead, be a big boy, and list his ass officially as a co-conspirator. And then the judge practically said, while we're not going to greenlight an early discovery against Larry, we can revisit this when the case gets a little on further down the road. It would be inappropriate timing when the reality is the judge didn't even know if the case would even make it to trial, because it was possible that the case would be either thrown out or mediated and resolved and settled, etc. So the judge said, look, we'll revisit this if we get there. And once we get there, you can reproposition the courts for an early discovery. And based upon, how things have flowed up until this point, you may or may get the discovery that you're looking for. Now, here's the thing. Is Larry guilty of anything that he can be liable of? I don't know. Because while a lot of people believe that Jakes got Larry, the reality is Jakes has already proven to us by seeking early discovery, and there was a whole hearing around this early discovery, that they don't have anything concrete against Larry just yet. And what Jakes is clearly not wanting to do is put Larry's name down there on that suit officially as a co-defendant and then start litigating with Larry, only to find out that Larry can't be liable for anything based upon findings, and then put Larry in a position to reverse Uno and counter sue Jake's ass. So they're trying to be very strategic when it comes to Larry, okay? Because they know that Larry is not a complete dummy. They know that, Larry ain't got this far because he's just a fucking airhead. And they know that if Larry is in a position to protect his name, that more than likely that's exactly what the hell he's going to do, considering that they are wanting to rip up the credibility of his platform. So that's why they're trying to use the courts to kind of like, well, can you greenlight discovery so that we can go in and look around? And then if we find anything objective, we can then finally and officially include his ass as a co-conspirator. And the courts are like, nope, you pull the trigger first. And then you build and create the snowball. So I don't feel like the Jakes camp has anything officially yet on Larry. They're fishing. Now, that doesn't mean that there ain't fish in the pond, but it means that what they have access to currently is just suspicion. And of course, don't give a damn about how paranoid Jakes is. They don't give a damn about his suspicions, you know. And if you, once again, like the court said to Jakes, if you are suspicious, baby, then you go ahead and pull the trigger and you see where you get. And those suspicions, don't be pussy about it. Don't try to tiptoe, you know, don't try to do the Matrix bend about it, baby. Don't try to set yourself up so that, you know, you can be safe after you've used the courts to make all these statements against Larry, to make all these accusations against Larry, and then ultimately you will want to avoid the consequences of that by way of an early discovery, so you can say, okay, well, we went in and we were able to clear Larry's name because it ain't shit there, and now y'all safe. The courts are saying, you're gonna have to play ball, baby. You're gonna have to play ball, baby. We're not gonna let you, you know, avoid accountability after y'all done came up in here and saying all this shit. Nope. List them as a co-conspirator. Say what you got to say to justify that. Upon discovery, we will then decide if it makes sense to green like that. And then, you know, there either is smoke where there's fire or there's not. And then if there's not, then of course, you know, Jake's got to worry about Larry pulling a reverse Uno, which Larry should. If you motherfuckers filed this suit and talked all this shit about, you know, me being in a coop with Blackburn and this man and blah, 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 and y'all done slid on my credibility. Oh, yes, baby. I'm coming for my $6 million countersuit, especially since I know you got it, Big Daddy. And Jake's trying to avoid that because he really don't want Larry Ass to get a win. He don't want Larry having the last laugh. He don't want Larry Ass being able to have the bragging rights, baby, because that is also going to do major good for Larry's brand. It's going to make Larry an even more credible content creator if Jakes pulls the trigger and then come to find out they can't prove their case against Larry. And then Larry pulls that reverse Uno and gets a payout. I mean, that's going to be the alley-oop of the century. And it's really going to be egg and doo-doo and turd, you know, on Larry's enemies, on his, what you call them folk? What's what I'm looking for? It starts with a C, I think. His, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. But, you know, it's going to be a big egg. And Jakes them know that. Jakes knows that. So, Jakes is only going to talk peripherally about Larry right now. Jakes is having to weigh his options here about adding Larry Ass officially as that co-defendant, baby, because that's going to raise the stakes for the both of them. And once again, if Jake's team had anything objective to put some blood and substance into their claims against Larry, they would have already pulled the trigger. The reality is they don't have any blood. They don't have any substance. And all Jakes has is a suspicion. But once again, pulling the trigger on Larry could really cost Jakes on the financial side and also on the social side, because if he pulls that trigger and he can't hold Larry's feet to the fire and there's nothing there, Larry pulls that reverse Uno, bitch. That's going to put credibility on Larry's platform at a monumental level. That's going to be pretty historical, that Larry pretty much alley-ooped the fuck out of TD Jake's ass. And Larry has already said on my platform that if he has to take the stand, he's going to tell it all. So pretty much what Larry is prepared to do is finish what Duane started against Jakes. Larry said, I'm going to tell the truth. If them ninjas subpoena me, if them ninjas da-da-da-da me, I'm going to tell the truth. And everybody should be bothered, because let me tell you something, baby. There are certain things that I know, and there are certain things that I know that Larry knows, that Larry has not yet made available to the public. And if those are the things Larry are prepared to bring to the public via a litigation, things are going to get real interesting, bitch. Things are going to be catastrophic. There's going to be multiple fires erected. Multiple fires erected. And I am not sure how those things are going to play out. I'm not sure how those things are going to play out. I'm not sure how those things are going to play out between Larry and said parties. I'm not sure what the public is going to feel or say once they come to know certain shit. Bitch. It's going to open, talk about a can of worms. There definitely is going to be an entire can of worms that are going to come busting out. And what I can say, based upon what I know that Larry knows, is it's not going to be Duane that Jakes has to worry about. It's actually Larry that Jakes has to worry about. It's interesting to see both Larry and Jakes on the same chessboard, because Jakes is using Duane to fish out Larry and every other op. But the fact that Larry is prepared to air everybody ass out and is prepared to open up the graves, which are not just going to impact Jakes, they're going to impact other people in his community. They're going to impact other relationships in his life. But it also means that Larry arguably could be using Duane to fish out Jakes. Larry is prepared to finish what Duane has started. Now, whether it's always been about this, I don't know. Whether this has always been Larry's play, I don't know. Rather, this was always about putting Duane in a position to where Duane could be sued, while Larry knowing that he could potentially end up subpoenaed, which is maybe what Larry wanted this whole time, so that he could finally set certain truths forward about Jakes. Was that the play all along? I don't know. Larry is the one who said he was not surprised that TD Jakes pulled the trigger on Duane with this lawsuit. Could that imply that you're not surprised because this was part of the play? And could it be possible that between Tyrone, Larry, Jakes, and Blackburn, well, not Blackburn, Tyrone, Duane, Jakes, and Larry, that you have a bunch of people with ulterior motives, all being opportunistic in this moment? Here it is, Tyrone Blackburn, a scandalized attorney trying to get a quick out-of-court payment from Jakes, latches on to an opportunity because that's what lawyers do, and that's certainly what Tyrone does. You have Duane, who needs to socially redeem himself as a pedophile by deflecting onto other people, more notable people, and make similar claims against them so that he can go from a villain to a victim, which may ease some of the social dynamics in his own life. And yes, may also result in a financial payout, considering that Duane was broke and only working a part-time job at the time that he was sued. You got TD Jakes, who obviously does not like Larry, feels like Larry has been after him for some time, and now through suing Duane has an opportunity to hold Larry ass accountable and to get some licks back off Larry. So he's going to sue Duane to get to Larry. And if there are things that Larry have been long wanting to expose about Jakes, but did not, because he was kind enough to allow other people to decide when, how, and where they wanted to tell their stories, to be in control of that. But aligning with Duane publicly, knowing that it could result in a lawsuit, also puts Larry in a position to be able to say all the things that he's been itching to say and tell about TD Jakes, and then justify it by way of, hey, I've been subpoenaed. I didn't come forward on my own fruition, so y'all can't call me messy. I didn't come forward with clicks and views and just rush across the finish line. I'm saying these things because I've been subpoenaed, or I now have to countersue, or I have to legally defend my... It's the perfect opportunity for all players involved, because it seems that there definitely is ulterior motive by all players involved, including TD Jakes. And I'm not saying that ulterior motives are evil in and of themselves. I'm just saying that there are seemingly a lot of agendas at play. Who comes out the winner in this Game of Thrones, baby, is yet to be seen. I think it's still too early to tell what's going to take place between Jakes and Larry. Jakes is definitely whipping Duane's ass and whipping Tyrone's ass. And are some of the way Larry has moved as it relates to Jakes and Duane questionable? Sure, but that's not what's going to be on the stand. Is Larry's per se motives? It's going to be, what the fuck can Jakes prove? What can Jakes hold Larry civilly accountable for? And the courts have already said, bitch, it's not going to be on suspicion. It's going to have to come a lot more than with suspicion. So continuing to talk about Larry in this litigation seems to be Jakes continuing to prime the courts. Jakes wants the courts to keep Larry's name amidst Duane's, because they are looking to make him a co-conspirator, etc. And by the time discovery does come in this case, you know, they want the courts to be open to allowing Jakes and his team to pry. Let's open up some emails. Let's open up some DMs. Let's open up some things and see, you know, what it gives. Now, what's interesting about that is that if they go and pry, there's another person who I know is going to be brought in as a Jane Doe or as a John Doe. I know who the third John Doe is going to be. Baby, shit gonna get wild, bitch. Shit gonna get wild if they go in and pry. I can almost bet who the third John Doe is going to be. And Jakes may be very surprised. Very, 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 very surprised. But the thing is, Jakes got to prove conspiracy. Betrayal is not conspiracy. Having people in your life you can't trust is not a crime. You can't hold being fake, legally accountable. He's going to have to prove conspiracy. Now, the third John Doe, I don't believe is going to be able to be qualified legally as a co-conspirator. But he may be shocked, for sure, at some of the cross-pollinating that have been taking place. And I'm not sure if Jakes is going to appreciate that. I'm not even sure if we're going to see a social reaction either. Whatever happens and how certain things are dealt with may play out privately, since they may not be able to play out civilly and legally. It's going to be messy. Y'all have any questions? Hi, Jackie, who says, oh my goodness, these people are always saying some ish. Absolutely, baby. The mess, honey, okay? Pigs, wallowing, honey. But when you are a meddler, Andrew says, honey, when you're independent and free. High mental ability says, if Larry knows these things about TD Jakes, I'm sure he has receipts to back it up. And you know what? If Larry doesn't, Larry is definitely going to point Jakes in the direction of whom he need to be talking about and talking to. And yes, I'm pretty sure there are recordings. Anybody who knows Larry, I don't know how much Larry asserts this, but Larry records everything. He records every interaction. He records every phone call. So, yeah. It's going to be a mess. Let me see here. Those celebrities have been always known what's done in the dark will be exposed in the light. What's going on, Theodore? High Mental says, I think Larry is too smart to put himself in a position to be sued by TD Jakes. He knows the law well, from what I understand. Hey, Ebony. Hi. They need to give Tyrone Blackburn that ass whooping. I agree, child. Jakes might end up having a stroke or heart attack, a second one, from all the things he's been involved in with the last couple of years. Maybe. It's a lot. It is a lot, child. Do y'all have any questions? Any questions at all that you guys want to ask the king? Because, baby, get y'all a vacuum. Bitches is messy. It's getting messy, child. This going to be some messy shit. That's for damn sure. Hold on. Let me see here. How is Tyrone still being hired? Because, when you look at a lot of his clients, a lot of them are struggling financially. So having a attorney come on to represent you pro bono, who also has dealt with, high profile cases, all that looks good at face value. And because most of the people that he has a clientele, they don't really go and do no research on these attorneys. They probably go Google him and see some of the sensationalized headlines. Well, okay, this is a legit attorney he's worked with, that guy he's worked against, boom, 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 boom. And then they don't do any further homework. They don't do the homework to see exactly where the fuck, how his cases ended up, how those cases turned out. They don't do a deep dive. And honestly, even if they did, probably still can't afford to turn down a pro bono attorney, because at the end of the day, Their lack of finances got them in a chokehold. So, beggars can't be choosers. So, convenient. Just convenient. Todd says, laugh my ass off. Has he won any cases? Probably cases for non-celebrities. Probably some fender bender cases. Probably help with some divorce proceedings. Things on a practical scale. But certainly, there has not yet really been a notable win as it relates to the high-profile cases he's been a part of. Joanne says, Conscious, you're a beautiful soul. Prayers because Jake's has much deeper pockets. You're right. It's going to be big. Take deep breaths. Yeah, it's going to be a mess. Jake's can go the long haul. Anybody who's ending up in a litigation with Jake should be prepared to have money the very long way because, a lot of times that's another war tactic on behalf of plaintiffs in lawsuits is to dry your ass up, keep you legally bound, keep you spending that money. And if you don't have eternal immortal coin, eventually it could, turn your ass into unwind with trash of K, and you found on all type of chapter 7 through 12 bankruptcies and having to give up your, dream home and having to be reduced to hoopties and living in the ghettos and slums of Florida, so we've seen how this turns out when people don't have long sufficient coin, baby. Okay, keep that mat closed. All right. Beautiful one says, I don't know why DY fixed his face and mouth to step up to the plate in a court of law. Because I'm gonna be honest, I think DY did not really foresee a litigation. I really believe that Youngblood really thought that Jakes was just going to take it on the chin and that Duane was going to use Larry's platform to go viral, to put some attention and spotlight on him, and then he was going to drop books, etc., and kind of, use the clout to pivot, and he was going to get his money there. Tyrone is the one who introduced the legality. And isn't that crazy how initially Jakes was going to take it on the chin? It wasn't until Tyrone entered the group chat and told Larry that Duane has a case and should consult with him. And then Tyrone Blackburn went to filing and sending demand letters. And that is what aroused Jakes' ass and made Jakes pull the trigger. And all this could have not happened had Duane not been money hungry, but because Duane's incentive was money to begin with. So, of course, talking about Jakes, even for 20 minutes on a notable platform, it was going to do what it needed to be done. It was going to allow him to pivot, and once again, do books and all of this shit and sell whatever he going to sell, from victim, the victimizer to save and sanctify, whatever the fuck his programs were going to, he already had a plan. And Jakes, through the filings, already showed what the play was going to be because he got some websites already, Duane that is, already up. Clearly he was ready to kind of go to the moon after all of this initial clout. But Jake shut that down immediately by filing suit against Duane ass. So it stopped what could have potentially been, what was going to potentially be. But because Duane had money on his mind regardless, and talking about Jakes to Larry was nothing more than a lick and an opportunity, of course he entertained Tyrone Blackburn, and Tyrone was like, look, you could get an out-of-court payment, my darling. We could run him for millions. Jakes is probably so, his notoriety rests upon his reputation. Clearly he wouldn't want you harming that will impact blah, 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 blah. But what Tyrone Blackburn, because we clearly can see he doesn't think shit through, did not calculate is the fact that Duane had already did the damage. So there was really no point in you sending a demand letter to TD Jakes about, keeping his mouth closed. Why would I pay you to shut your fucking mouth when you've already done 2 live streams now that I went viral? The clips are already being repurposed and are being, put through the algorithms and now have been seen by millions of fucking people, and you think that now, amidst the fucking storm, I should litigate with the fucking storm when the storm already has arrived, bitch? The storm has already ripped up shit. What am I going to settle with you out of court for, you dummy? You big dummy. You've already done the damage. So if anything, bitch, you've given me reason to lay lawsuit to ass, belt to ass, to recoup on the damage your client has already now done. You send demand letters prior to pulling the trigger. You don't pull the trigger and then send a goddamn demand letter. Well, hey, pay us to not do any further damage. No, baby, it don't work that way. Tony Busby them tried to do the same thing to Jay-Z, except they didn't pull the trigger first. But Tony Busby went and sent a demand letter to Jay-Z. Hey, we got a Jane Doe. She's claiming that you and Sean raped her when she was 13. Yeah, no. We're looking for some resolve here or else. And Jay-Z went and pulled the motherfucking trigger. And then what Tony Busby did was then have Jane Doe amend her complaint in retaliation against Jay-Z. And then the rest is history. You know, case got thrown out, blah, 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 blah. You know, but even Tony Busby's incompetent, stupid, thick-necked ass wouldn't have been stupid enough to have Jane Doe pull the trigger first and then go in with a demand letter. You just don't do that. Jackie says the devil has come to collect from all the people that wanted to be billionaires. Conscious, you are gifted. Why do you say that, Moses? Why am I gifted, Moses? Why am I gifted, darling? Expound. Expound, Moses. Todd says, Conscious, when are you going to get your law license? You would clean up consultation. Try, got the patience, the lawyer girl. All that writing and the administrative part of being a lawyer, I can never, baby. That ain't my lane. That ain't my swag. That is not my sweet child. The Busby is out here, girl. So shout out to TD Jakes, girl. Another slaughter. They done debunked, disproved, bought all of the responses from Duane Youngblood up, girl. A lot of people are also saying, you know, Duane is mighty quiet, as he should be. This is a litigation. No attorney would have their client out here running that goddamn out. So he should have disappeared. He should be living in the shadows and the obscurities of society at this point. You ain't supposed to be hearing from anybody who has retained legal counsel. So no. He is doing exactly what his lawyers told him to do, girl. Shut that mouth. Don't you say nothing else about Jake's, bitch. Don't you speak through Larry Reid's platform, girl. Just quiet and simmer down and let's now litigate. We don't need you fucking up the rest of the damn church's money. Jackie says, I honestly believe you are the best out here. I am Miss Blue on period. I am. So, if y'all don't have any questions at all, y'all have any questions before we get up out of here, girl? Another victory for, let me see when responses are due. Let me check Pacer, see what's going on. Let me see here, Rhea. It's a mess, child. Who is going to come out on top is yet to be seen, but what we know inevitably, baby, is that it's going to get messy. That's for damn sure. This is on its way to Messyville, my darling. Messyville. Let me see here. Let me scroll down. All right. Response in opposition to 43 brief in motion to dismiss the face of the claim filed by Thomas Dexter. Can you be doing all that? Declaration. Then. All right. I think we have a due date from Duane next month in response to this. So that'll be our next update, child. My God, today, let me see here. Yep. Reply is, yep. June the 3rd. Okay, so response to motion to dismiss. Signed by Hold on, let me see. Let me open up this shit because I haven't even seen this docket in so long. Let me see here. And now on the 6th day of May, defendant having filed a notice of motion to dismiss with brief and support. There is, it is hereby ordered that the plaintiff's response, okay, in brief and opposition, not to exceed 22 pages, shall be filed by May 27th. All right. TDJX already did that. Defendant shall file any reply brief not to exceed 15 pages by, June. Okay, so we'll be seeing another response within a week. 15 pages or less. I'm sure they're going to crash and burn again because that's all that they've been fucking doing on Duane and Tyrone Blackburn's part, girl. So right now, TDJX is still carrying the victory. Are you to court? I don't rewrite that again, Jackie. Are you to court in support of Larry? You gotta rewrite that, baby. I don't know what you mean. Having to ability says CTV can have his own show as a mediator who resolves disputes and hold people accountable with his excellent, nearly perfect Judaism. I'm a Scorpio. Scorpios make excellent judges. You know, we're so observant. We are plugged in cerebrally. We have a knack for detail, etc. So we do make excellent mediators and judges. Oh, yes, we do. Another conversation I've been hearing about is like, why has Larry not taken down the TDJX content? Because apparently Larry, a few weeks ago, I guess, or a month ago, had basically copped a plea to social media and put out a statement asking anyone who feels a way about any content on his platform, they can contact him at his email and basically ask, and they can request a takedown, and he would be more than happy to take down. Well, what that lets us know, if the TDJX content is still up, is that TDJX ain't seeking a takedown, which wouldn't make sense for TDJX to seek any damn way, considering that TDJX want Larry's head. So why would Jakes be, privately litigating with Larry about content up that is being used explicitly in TDJ's lawsuit against Duane, where Jakes is also looking to make a co-conspirator out of Larry. So yeah, TDJ's ain't hit them emails, baby. His fixers and fixer-uppers are not in correspondences with Larry because Jakes would like to also use this lawsuit to get a hold of Larry's bald head, child. Are you going to court in support of Larry? I'm not going to court in support of no damn body. I have never gone to court to support anybody. So the answer is no. I'm not, like I said, I don't have no rooster in a fight, baby. I'm not here to support or not support any one person. I'm just here to give my commentary and to give my insight. I'm not here to help Larry. I'm not here to help Jakes. I'm not here to help Duane. I am here to be a commentary and to give my non-biased commentary about very public matters. And yes, baby, when I'm not giving my commentary, the court I attend is the court of self-care. Okay. No, ma'am. Yes, Scorpios have penetrating brains, and he's going to have it right commentary. All right, so we're out of here, you guys. Tell me what you guys think. Why is Tyrone Blackburn just lying? At this point, it would be better for Duane to fire Tyrone Blackburn. Like, he needs to be seeking withdrawal. He needs to be asking the courts, girl, can y'all legally evict Tyrone Blackburn as my representation, girl? Because right now, I'm going to be honest, girl, if it's not Tyrone Blackburn being incompetent, we have to consider if Tyrone Blackburn girl is working for Jakes at this point, because this is like they're explicitly losing the case. Like, Tyrone Blackburn is not even trying. He's just lying, making up shit that's not there, knowing what the consequences are if he's found actually doing that. So we have to consider, girl, if not Tyrone's incompetence, girl, are you working for TD Jakes, bitch? Because what in the bloggers in the bushes, stay out of this one. Y'all have seen. What does that mean, Andrew? Bloggers, stay out of this one. Y'all have seen Conscious work. Tread like, what is? What does that mean, Andrew? What had happened? What is taking place? What do these parables mean? Can you expound a little bit, Andrew? What is going on? It is a lot going on. You know, 1 million videos are uploaded as we speak. About what, though? About what? Girl, let me tell you something while we here. Let me say something about the church sector and why I do not take the church sector seriously. It's because it's literally one of the biggest clown shows in town. What's so fascinating to me about the church sector and its division is that it's filled with a bunch of hypocrites. You have people to this day who are crying aloud, talking about, this is for my dead mammy, this is for my dead ass pappy, this is for my sorry ass frail brain children, this is for my, what is this for? You hoes have not gotten a lick yet. Like, what are y'all talking about? And then it's the revisionist historianist of it all. Like, girl, you're not a victim. You trolled everybody who is still more successful today than you are. You picked fights with people you wanted to fit in with who didn't let you sit at their table. And as a result, you got all up in your childhood traumatic fifis and took that rejection very personally, and then decided to wage war against people purely off the strength of clout chasing. Because the reason that we know this was never about certain people trying to save the community, and this was not about certain people trying to protect other future or potential victims, is because we learned from one of these people's own litigations, because, you know, they've also been sued. See, while they're looking for Larry and thinking Larry has been objectively sued, we're talking about people who have been literally sued. They've had a literal litigation. And we learned from one of their responses that while they're out here claiming fake caping, fake vigilanteing out of their own mouths, they never protected their own children from being actually violated by in-laws. They wrote to the judge and said, "Judge, the reason why I take this thing seriously and the reason why I put on my cape is because my children are still going upside my head today because I didn't protect them from the in-laws that were putting their hands in places on their body they wasn't supposed to be putting their hands in. My children believe that I knew about it the whole time." Baby, you haven't cleaned up your own lineage. So you want to protect a bunch of people you don't know, and you won't even protect the people that came out of your ball sack. You won't even protect the semen that turned into human beings. But you're out here protecting a bunch of hypothetical, invisible people in this whole mix. And then you know what's also really hypocritical about the church sector is that they're more mad at Larry about allegations and subjective things when there are people in the church sector that literally gang stalked, cyber stalked, literally doxed, committed federal crimes against people that led to them being walked off their jobs, led to their asses being civilly sued, led to all type of preposterous breakdown in their life. And nobody is more upset about the direct, explicit wrongdoing that people have done, while some of those people are deeply upset at Larry, essentially about nothing. And while all these people claiming they for the victims and they for the truth are claiming that conveniently on platforms they've monetized. Oh, okay. So, I can't take the church sector community seriously. These people are less mad at the people that actually violated them and did wrong, explicit, objective wrongdoing to others, and more mad at a man. Oh, and here's the thing. I think I watched St. James' show, and I think that they were talking about this demand letter from Duane Youngblood, and how Duane Youngblood, right, had changed his age in the demand letter to TD Jakes, citing that Duane was a minor, that he was a minor. And then I think somebody said, this man can't even get his age right. This man can't even get his story right. This man can't even, have any continuity. The same group of pseudo-intellectuals refuse to observe that same inconsistency in Levantredo, who changed his age 3 different times in 3 different interviews, who changed the when, why, and the how, added on to etc. in Levantre's claims against Larry. See, for me, it's the picking and choosing that I can't do. If you're going to be righteous, bitch. If you're going to call it down the middle with everybody. Don't pick and choose when all of a sudden now you're going to have a critical eye. When all of a sudden now you're going to have a critical thinking capability. But all of a sudden now, because when we were calling out the inconsistencies in Levantre's story, because he didn't know whether he was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or 18. But because certain people are in support of Jakes, they can see the inconsistencies and call the inconsistencies down the line when it comes to Duane, who been pussy popping and changing his age and changing his story or whatever the hell it is to the same degree that Levantre did. And here's another thing about this whole Larry's allegations. Larry sued Levantre and won. Larry sued Levantre and not only won, but had the judge who presided over the case literally call what Levantre did to Larry slander and defamatory. What Larry did was give his accuser the opportunity to hold him accountable for what he was telling everybody else in personal interviews, but didn't want to go sit his ass in a courtroom and tell to a judge who actually has the authority to hold Larry accountable. And what did Levantre do? run no matter what. Levante ran. And I'm talking about ran so motherfucking long and hard, bitch, that if you go and Google Levante's address where he initially got served at in North Carolina, that his mammy's house, the house is vacant, bitch. When I say that the whole entire family packed up their shit when Larry got to handing out lawsuits, bitch. Baby, the house don't even got curtains up on it no more. Okay? Now, why is it y'all allowed Tasha K to come down there to North Carolina and interview you in that living room? You allowed the cameras from bloggers in to tell y'all stories. But when Larry wanted y'all to tell y'all story in the court of law, where he could be penalized, where he could be shanked before the Father, Son, and the Holy Daughter, nobody wanted to open the door. Nobody wanted to be served. Nobody wanted to really be heard. So, what we supposed to do about Levante's story? When Levante didn't want to take his story up to the highest court, when Larry gave Levante the opportunity to do that, and instead of talking that sweet R&B shit in the court of law about Larry, he decided to hopscotch and drop it, bitch, and go into the obscurities of society. And even now, he would still prefer to hit panels rather than to have those same people help him to raise money so that he can go to back and legitimize his plight against Dr. Reid, who had no problem seeing him about those allegations in the court of law. So I don't appreciate the same group of people who didn't want to deal with none of Levante's inconsistencies, didn't want to deal with Levante changing his story, changing his age, him running from lawsuits, etc. All of a sudden now become lucid. All of a sudden now become deeply observant and critical of all of Duane Youngblood's inconsistencies. Because Duane Youngblood definitely got inconsistencies. Duane Youngblood definitely at this point is giving very much so liar, pants on fire. But the question is why y'all couldn't do that to another accuser who was flipping and dipping and flip-flopping at twice the rate that Youngblood is in his situation with TD Jakes. And this why I know that even this like little community of folk who are against Larry, it's not about no victims. It's not about no accusations. This is personal. It's about Larry himself. It's not even about the truth, because when it comes to Larry and certain things, you can clearly see a bias in the way that the claims around Larry are handled. Once again, without care, without interest in Larry's side, without interest in Larry's receipts, without interest in Larry's defense. But when it comes to, once again, using the Jake situation, Duane Youngblood, all of a sudden now, people can be interested in Jake's innocence. People can be interested in Jake's side. People can be interested, etc. And they can openly critique and break down and call out the tomfoolery of Duane Youngblood. See, the beautiful thing about our platform over here is that we can do this shit. We do this shit with everybody. We don't switch up. We go to being critical and observant in every situation. And who happens to come out the winner is just who happens to come out the winner. We don't have a rooster in the fight. We present the facts. We explore the circumstantial evidence if there's any. We do our due journalistic diligence in every situation without having to be blinded by our biases against whomever is supposed to be the accuser and the accused. These other parties don't do that. They pick and choose where they apply the shit. That's why y'all not going to be seeing me hit nobody's panel. Y'all not going to be seeing me cozy up to nobody. I am going to continue to make myself distinguishable and sit over here in my own lane and do what I do. And I don't want to be connected, and I don't want to be lumped up into all these other ulterior motives and cherry picking and all this other sideshow shit that these motherfucking hoes be doing. I'm not here to make one side look better than the other, baby. We here to just get into the substance of it all. Wherever that leads, however that concludes, is wherever the fuck it concludes. But it's so clear and easy to see the bias. The bias, the explicit motherfucking bias. Conscious, I'm telling you, you will make an absolute fortune. I can't do it, baby. I can't do it, baby. Okay? Maybe in another lifetime, sugar. Okay? Maybe. Just maybe. Just maybe. Maybe. But not this lifetime, baby. The lawyer shit done came and gone. Hey, Chef. Is this one that pretended to have a heart attack? Yes. The one who pretended to have a heart attack. Yes, God. And people sit over there and allow the doxer, the person who tried to invade people's privacy, the person who threatened to dismember people, spread their body parts, the person who pulled up into Larry's community and threat. How y'all more mad at Larry over things y'all feel, things y'all perceive, and justify this call to action and this witch hunt, but don't even hold the people that once again explicitly broke the law, that tried to explicitly posture themselves as an open menace to people who everyone saw do nothing to. The people who were on the receiving end of that, Andrea Garrison, CTV, Larry Reid, Knockout Media, did nothing to warrant that shit. But we all got the victory in the end, didn't we? Oh, yes, we did, bitch. We all got the victory in the end. Oh, yes, we did. So I can't respect people who can't chin check none of that shit. I can't respect people and take them remotely seriously when, bitch, you got real violators that y'all allowed to sit amongst you. Real violators. Real life psychos. Real life people that felt their children and subjected them to in-law, ancestral, sexual violation. Real life shit. Go do the psychoanalyst on that shit. Go do the panel and the think tanks on that shit. Go do that. Okay? At best, the church sector as a whole is just a cackle at best. There's no real substance and equity in it. It's just a bunch of out of touch, cherry picking bozos deciding based upon their personal biases who gets held accountable and who doesn't. Hey, CDV. Hi, Teresa. Hi, baby. Hi, boo. This is why I asked y'all, girl, do y'all have any questions? So I'm not going to allow myself to be lumped into with these folk. Nope. I'm going to sit my ass right on here on Consciouztv platform and drive my lane. Be on my side of the road. I don't need to link up with no bitch. I don't need to link up with Larry. I don't need to link up with nobody. I don't need to link up with the ops. I'm not going to allow myself to be used in that way. I'm not going to allow, my skills and my talents and my observations to be vacuumed into other people's weird ass ulterior motives against folk. Nope. Going to sit independently amongst thyself, pop my shit, and control my personal narrative and not allow myself to be a pawn by anybody. Not a pawn unto Larry, not a pawn unto his ops, etc. None of that. Thank you, baby mother Teresa, for this piece of child support shit. Thank you, baby mother. And I'm so glad that Andrea is here. Andrea witnessed the whole shit. She used to be a card-carrying member of the oppositional team. She's seen it all play out, girl, from Genesis to the Book of Revelations. You know? And I don't got no personal issue with nobody, but what I do know is that them hoes don't stand on no type of business. Even the people that are up against Larry, they don't stand on no business. There's no business being stand on because we saw how they played it down when it came to the allegations. Did Daquan prove that he even had HIV? No, he did not. Did he ever present an HIV test? No. But you know who presented several of them? Larry Reid did. So then how the fuck does Daquan get HIV? How he got HIV? He hasn't even produced a single receipt that he even is positive. And yet there are people running with that narrative about Larry. And Larry done presented several HIV negative tests. And still uphold those narratives. Still uphold them. Why is it not okay for Duane to change his goddamn age 3 different times? Y'all were okay with Levante changing his every time he went from one motherfucker to another motherfucker to another motherfucker to talk about a motherfucker. Like just the sheer hypocrisy of it all. The sheer hypocrisy. When CPS was being weaponized against people and their children, people were being viciously threatened. Folk was getting up here dressed like fucking ISIS and international domestic terrorists waving around GUNs. Oh, there wasn't no think pieces going on. The same person who did all that is able to sit in his own cracked outside of YouTube and claim he's a victim. Where that man did explicit wrong that got his ass fired, wrong that got his ass sued, wrong that got his own lawsuits against other people dismissed. Playing on the court's head tops, playing on public sympathy. So how can anyone be postured up as a symbol of justice when you don't distribute accountability equally across the motherfucking board? The greatest clown show in town, baby. Teresa says some people just don't want to know the truth because they constantly lie to themselves. That's why your blessings are abundant, because you don't clutter your life with negativity. Therefore, you have nothing but room. Period. Talk that shit, rumors. Andrew says, my issue is the entire sector seems to have issues with ego and arrogance. That's so dangerous because both can and will lead to destruction. Yeah. And there's nobody who's going to call it out. And the people who are willing to call it out have been demonized. I have been somebody that have called out all sides, bitch. I done called out Larry. I done called out King. I done called out. I done called out everybody. I was made a bad guy for being everybody's accountability partner. So, you know, there is an issue with accountability. There is an issue with arrogance. There is an issue with everybody screaming they don't want no yes man, but then the person who is willing to not be a yes man also gets demonized because the reality is folk don't want to be held accountable. Oh, okay. Then, you know, these attempts to create these oases of hope and justice and these space for truth end up just actually being more abusive and exploitative by nature because there's no real way to resurrect a system of check and balances and accountability. None. You have an out of shape, non-corset wearing, high-pitched voice, clearly same gender loving man with a lisp, obsessed with Larry, but were a part of a 4-person shit show that was accusing Larry years ago of having the house in Virginia. And still to this day, several HIV tests later, refuse to use that same raggedy deep throat to say, you know what? That wasn't true. Larry proved his case, baby. Somebody got HIV, but it damn sure ain't Larry Reid, baby. So now we got to go back to the source of the one who accused Larry as such, Daquan. Daquan, how the fuck, bitch, do you explain Larry Reid being HIV negative while you're HIV positive, my girl? And while we're at it, can we actually see some proof that you're actually HIV positive? Because we don't even know if that much is fucking true. Nope, there's no accountability for the truth. There's no priority of the truth. There's no acknowledgement of the facts when the facts do not support people's personal narratives about other people. So I know that this whole witch hunt against Larry is a personal one. Because if it was about the truth and it was about receipts, the receipt should be clearing a lot of shit. People will still uphold the Lester, despite the fact that Lester done came and said, I lied on that damn man. He ain't giving no HIV. I was unwell. I was in need of mental help. I was in need of a mental breakdown. I was in need of mental health services. The fact that we actually produced the receipts of Lester preying on Larry, breaking into his AT&T account, stealing his vehicle, all things that have police reports, all things that we had whole recordings, the whole nine. Lester's own family exposing him. Nope. Do you think any of that gets any attention by the group, by the we stand on truth, we stand with truth, we stand with truth, we're integral? No, you don't, bitch. You just don't like Larry for whatever reasons you don't like motherfucking Larry, which is cool. But not liking Larry and then only being selective about when the facts are going to matter is the unintegrity of it all. It's the non-integrity of it all. It's the bullshit of it all. If you're for the facts, then be for the facts in every regard. Be for the facts. If this is about you just not liking a motherfucker, then just don't like a motherfucker. But you don't get to be a revisionist historian, and you don't get to apply the facts and not apply the facts at your leisure. Not without being chin checked by a bitch like me. So, until I see committees that actually attempt seriously to really stand on business, that attempt to really take up priority of truth, that try their best to be very centered in their observations and to call things truly down the middle, and can have enough consistency in those directions, I don't feel safe going anywhere but here. I don't feel safe joining conversations with folk. Larry doesn't do a good job at that, and neither do any of the other sides. Yes, Larry is inconsistent. Larry don't stand on business. Larry chooses when he applies and doesn't apply. It's all raggedy as hell. It's all raggedy as hell. That's why I was able to call Larry ass out even in his conduct with this Jake shit. Jakes can't sue Duane, but you should be able to sue your accusers, which you've done. Jake shouldn't make a thing out of 15 minutes, but you made a thing out of it by carving out that 15 minutes and making it individual fucking upload so that it can be sensationalized, which your platforms are monetized, so you made money off of that shit that you feel Jakes should be minimizing while you maximize the allegations against him. That's bullshit. Bullshit. You said you didn't want to have anything to do with this. Once the lawsuits had went out, or I'm distancing myself, continue to give updates. And not only continue to give updates, you also gave Duane legal advice. Y'all should apply the anti-slap law. Well, what happened to staying the fuck up out of it? What happened to getting out of the middle of it? What happened to distancing yourself from it? Foolery. Fuckery. Ain't nobody standing on motherfucking business. So fuck everybody, baby. Okay? We're going to call it down the motherfucking middle, and we're going to hold everybody ass to the motherfucking cross, including our faves, our non-faves, the folk we like, the folk we don't like, the folk we know, the folk we don't know. Like I said, bitch, I pride myself on being somebody who at least attempts to really be non-biased. Because this is what gets me in trouble with a lot of my personal relationship to a lot of these content creators to begin with. Because I tug on a motherfucking wig, and then they get in their fucking feelings, and then I'm the bad guy. I don't care. I'm going to die on this hill, bitch. I came into this world by myself. I'm going to die by myself. I ain't never needed a relationship to nail motherfucker in order to breathe and to be blessed. So you can take it or you can motherfucking leave it. I don't give a fuck. I don't need a bitch alliance. I don't need a relationship. I don't need proximity. I don't need none of that. My blessings come from the throne room itself. So if people are just not mature enough to handle being held accountable, so be it. Get the fuck on, twirl, haul ass. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. 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 I do not give a fuck. I'm not going to choose people over the fucking truth. Sorry. Good riddance. Goodbye. Don't give a fuck. I am at heart, authentic, introverted person to begin with. So I prefer, girl, to be in my car by myself. People too high maintenance with their egos, with their attitudes, with their complexities, all that shit, honey. Okay? That's way too taxing, girl, for an authentically introverted person in which I am. So, it's ideal for me to have, to be a part of a very small clique, girl. The less people, the better for me. Okay? My light becomes dimmed. My thrivingness becomes dimmed the more people I'm associated with, girl. So, bitch, I prefer to be in my car by myself where I thrive. What's going on, the beautiful ones? Andrew says, call him out. I think whether he wants to hear it or not, you're telling Larry the truth. If he could not put his ego aside, he could help himself repair his reputation in public. Yeah, he could have, but he didn't. And it's funny because me and Larry argued over things that he's now calling himself doing. Like this whole apology tour. When I was on Larry's neck about him forfeiting, the decision he made to rebrand his platform. Oh, we argued about that. At the time, the smartest crayon in the box, him. He had an excuse. He rationalized it only for your ass to turn around and do what I knew what was in the best interest of you to do then. Now you're having to do it now after dropping the ball again. After dropping the ball again. My issue with Larry is that Larry, too, is a revisionist historian, talks out of both sides of his motherfucking mouth and both sides of his motherfucking throat, and I can't deal. Now, it's okay if you talk out of both sides of your motherfucking neck, but damn, at least be a real enough nigga to at least acknowledge that. But we can't even acknowledge it. You'd rather try to alley-oop me psychologically than to just be like, you know what? You're right. Especially when I have example 1 through fucking 100. I can't deal with that type of immature shit. I can't deal with it. Okay. You don't want no continuity. You want to be able to flip-flop. You want to be able to contradict yourself. And you don't want to be called out for it. Okay, cool. I can't deal with that, okay? I can't deal with it. Because other people crazy will make your ass crazy. Eventually. So, baby, I be having the electric slide on, baby. Where's the door? Bitch, give me the front or the back, girl, but just give me a door. I can't do it, girl, okay? I can't. My brain don't brain. I can't do it. It is what it is. Once again, and I ain't even got no issues with nobody. But baby, I can't deal with people like that. I just can't deal, and I'm okay with that. I have perfected the art now of just staying in my lane, girl, doing what works for me, being truly amongst, like-minded folk, and the quality of wellness and happiness is just now really, truly level. And I truly wish everybody the best, baby. I wish Jake's the best. I wish Larry the best. I wish everybody, all the folk involved, baby, the ops, everybody, baby, whoever, wherever the hell everybody at, baby. Just God bless America, bitch, okay? God bless America. God bless. Hey, her story. Hey, boo. CTV has spoken. CTV said you won't. Baby, I miss. It's time to move. Exit stage left, baby. CTV, tell them all. Don't lie in your face. My God, it's too much. It's too much that be going on, y'all. It be way too much. Way too much, child. But TD Jakes for the win, child. TD Jakes for the motherfucking... No, let me not drop the link, girl, because, folk can get real carried away, baby. I ain't got time to be responsible, girl, for what other people say, child. Let me not drop the link. But TD Jakes, girl, another major W, girl, knocking these hoes out, blowing Duane Youngblood and Tyrone Blackburn out of the park. I do not believe that TD Jakes has anything of substance against Larry. He's clearly already tried to use the courts to find that substance. The courts have said, hell no, bitch, go ahead and list them, and then we'll work with you. But, we're not pulling the trigger for you, and you're not going to weaponize us against somebody you're not even bold enough. Despite all your assertions, you won't even put and finally officially list as a co-defendant. So whether Larry will enter as a co-defendant is yet to be seen. The fact that they haven't listed Larry yet as a co-defendant, I don't know. I think they're just going to hold on until discovery comes and then see what happens. And if the courts deny Jake's discovery against Larry, Jake's is then after that, if Jake's don't list Larry as a co-defendant, Larry ain't gonna be a co-defendant. Everybody needs to learn the lesson scams refuse to learn. You don't have to run yourself off a cliff following someone determined to crash out. Let them cruise on into the abyss without you on that part, child. Every man got to work out his or her own soul salvation, okay? But I love you guys. This was amazing. You guys can continue to look forward to the non-biased commentary that Larry Reid claims that he loves so much about CTV. That's what you're always going to get here, girl, is non-biased commentary. And once again, please run those likes up, all that good jazz. If you enjoyed yourself, you can always show some love to the Cash App and or the PayPal. Email me or the T. And I will see you guys in the next interim. We have some things. We have some other legalities going on as well, chill. But we'll get into all that. Okay? I love you guys. Good night.